Kek, secar, molla kısa dök bir çay. Fabrika parça başı, yettirdin mi maaşı? Ev içi görülmez emek, sigorta yok, yol ve yemek. Ne liberal zamanlar, burada herkes bırakar. Burada herkes bırakar. Yek, secar, ne yerim ne yenim dar. Ev kira sokak bizim, değil benim krizim. İşsizdir tüm çalışanlar, mavi beyaz ne farkın var? Hakimimse yasalar, yıkılsın piyasalar, yıkılsın piyasalar, yıkılsın piyasalar. Yıkılsın piyasalar.
Hello.
Hello, hello, hello. Can you hear me?
Oh, we are live. Okay. Hello, everyone. So after traveling from the US to China, today we are traveling to Russia. It's our next stop of the Red Radio Show. Russia is the second now country in the world with the highest number of infected people from the pandemic after the US. Russia is also another superpower that its wealth and influence does not meet the care towards people. Austerity, healthcare, unemployment, attacks on freedom is what the working class and the youth are facing. Putin claims that liberal social attitudes like civil and human rights, yes, democracy, secularism, gender and racial equality, freedom of speech and organization, which he sees as Western influences, have also outlived their time. Russia is not a bourgeois democracy. Serious opposition parties and candidates are not allowed to participate in elections, and protesting is illegal. So in these conditions, the working people and the youth has found new creative ways to organize and protest. This week, we are discussing with Daria Hamburg, a member of the Virus Trade Union and Socialist Feminist Alternativa. Hello, Daria. Welcome to our show.
Thank you. Thank you. Pleased to be here.
So, Daria, in the beginning in Russia, they were saying that the virus is relatively controlled, but then the numbers started to rise, making Russia one of the second country, actually, with most cases. However, not all dead are counted, as they had other illnesses, and now they are announcing that they will not count the asymptomatic people. So, how do you comment on this? How is the situation?
Where do I start? There's a lot to say about this because basically it's really hard to trust official statistics because we already know, and there have been a lot of cases, especially from the regions, where you cannot actually trust the official statistics because we know that they've been lowered. We know that a lot of deaths are hidden. What they actually do is it's either they don't have enough tests, it has been in Dagestan. So basically there were not enough tests and they did not test people for COVID-19. What they did, they just said that these are the symptoms of pneumonia. And on the death certificate, instead of saying that it was coronavirus, they said that it was pneumonia. And till now, the statistics for Dagestan is very, very low. But actual statistics, it's just crazy. We know that at least, once they were saying that there are only 29 deaths, just 29 deaths. And as soon as we see the reports, we see that there are at least 650 deaths from the same place, but from pneumonia. It's it's really crazy. You cannot trust any of the statistics in Russia, and also by the reports that we've seen from the population, we now know that at least 50% of the population in Russia, they don't trust the official statistics. They don't believe in the numbers.
Of course, as they see people close to them get infected or even dying from the coronavirus. Most of the numbers came from Moscow.
Yeah, basically, we do think that it's because of the density of the population, and the numbers in Moscow can be closer to truth as in regions, because like overall the numbers in regions, by some of the reports, we think that at least the numbers are supposed to be higher, at least by 70% in infected and death rates. And they're just hiding that information.
We saw also some protests in some areas happening because of, as you said, not testing enough.
Yeah, so for example, there was a case in North Republic of Yakutia. Oil workers, a huge oil plant, at least, so they saw that they have no personal protection equipment, and this is how they organized. They really wanted they really wanted testing, and they really wanted to have the personal protection equipment. So they organized the protest, and basically they demanded the testing. And the first testing showed that there were at least 3,500 workers infected, but there was no reaction from the employers. They said it's not real numbers. These are preliminary numbers, and we should not treat this seriously. Until now, the numbers from North Republic of Yakutia are less than 3,500. So we know that they're skewing with the numbers. We don't know how, but it's really hard to know what's actually happening.
Tell us a little bit about the health system in Russia. Like Akel, the ex-communist party in Cyprus, says, in southern Cyprus anyway, says that the reason there are a few deaths is because of the Russian health system that was organized during the USSR time. How is it in reality?
It's not good. By the latest numbers that we have, one of our leftist media organizations, they did the research, and they found out that at least that the death among doctors in Russia is at least 16 times higher than in the other countries, which is absolutely crazy. So the most vulnerable people at the moment are the doctors, the people who are treating us, the people who are caring for us. And it's absolutely crazy. But on the other hand, I do agree that there are some, the overall structure of Russian healthcare, it's based on Soviet hospitals, on Soviet system, on Soviet healthcare system, and it was a progress from what has been before that. So we are progressing, and it got better during the Soviet times. But at the moment, with all the cuts to healthcare system, all the closed hospitals, all the fired doctors, all the fired staff, like the cuts, they started overall in 2012-ish, but the general trend in cutting the healthcare funds started way before that. So at the moment, what we see and what has happened, for example, in Moscow, that they just took medical students from second, third, and fourth year, like everyone who's got the basic training, and they forced them to work at the hospitals with COVID-19 cases. Medical students, like they are understaffed. They are understaffed, and they don't have enough. They don't have enough equipment as well. So I do realize that the structure, the base of Russian healthcare, it's great that we have it, but at the moment it's severely underfunded. We need more money, we need more people, we need more salaries. Like, it's a running joke in Russia about salaries of doctors. Like, everyone knows that doctors in Russia are not getting enough. They're not being paid enough, and everyone knows that. Everyone knows that if you're working in a hospital, and if you're not a private doctor, or if you're not doing both, you're barely getting a living wage. And in addition to that, in mid-April, our president, he said that he's going to fund and he's going to give very nice bonuses to everyone, to every healthcare worker who is working at the moment with COVID-19 cases. But from the latest reports that we have from the healthcare workers, they did not receive anything. And their salaries from time to time are being also cut. And it's a little bit crazy. Like, with healthcare system, it's absolutely crazy. In addition to that, we also have the official doctors trade union, which is called Doctors Alliance. So basically, this is the biggest one, and it's an official trade union of the doctors. And from the beginning of the pandemic, they've been trying to get the personal protection equipment to the doctors in every single hospital, and to help them work reasonable hours, have the protection, and not die from the coronavirus. Because, as we now know, 16 times higher death rates in doctors in Russia. It's just impossible. So the Doctors Alliance actually received a lot of pushback from the authorities. Like, they're trying to help. They're crowdfunding for masks. They're crowdfunding for personal protection. They are giving a lot of money to the doctors. They're trying to keep them fed. They're doing a lot, and yet they're being pushed back by the authorities. There were not once and not twice when they were bringing the supplies and the equipment to the hospitals, when they got arrested and fined by the police because they were allegedly violating the self-isolation regimen.
Mm-hmm. So you mean the people were providing actually the personal protective equipment, and the people were providing the food to the doctors. Not even the state couldn't afford or didn't want to provide all these necessary provisions to the doctors.
A lot of these claims from the Doctors Alliance are being neglected by the authorities that we currently have. They're saying that it's not true, that Doctors Alliance is not valid, and so on and so on. So it's really weird for me as a person who at the moment is in a trade union to see such huge pushback from the authorities, from people who are actually providing care for us.
Can I ask you, was there any lockdown in Russia? I understand that there was no official lockdown. It was presented something like a non-working week, but it was more than a week. And there was a discussion on whether the Russian government would declare a state of emergency or not. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Where do I start? It's a very weird situation when we clearly have the state of emergency in Russia, and they're not legally treating it as such. So basically, what they did is they said that that we are on a high alert for the state of emergency, but it's not a state of emergency. So by laws, if we are declaring a state of emergency, the government has to pay. The government has to pay a lot of wages. They need to suspend all the payments. They need to suspend the payments for the rent. They need to suspend the payments for the loans and the banks and so on and so on. But basically, what they did is they declared a semi-state state of emergency where they don't need to pay to anyone and do nothing, and basically they're just putting all of the responsibility. I think this is the first time in like more than 20 years when Kremlin decided that they wanted to shift the authority and the responsibility for the actions that they're taking from Kremlin itself towards the regions. So, and also because it's not going to be a popular decision anyways. It's either full lockdown, which is not very popular, but at least it's safe, or there are no measures at all taken to stop the spreading of the pandemic. Neither of them is popular with the crowds. Nobody likes it. Like what people actually want, they want to have a stable income, and this is what they lost during that pandemic. Most of the people in Russia at the moment, they said that they either lost a part of their income or most of their income. Okay, but I was saying about the high alert state and self-isolation and lockdown. So basically what Moscow did, they separated it into several, so they spread the responsibility, and every region itself decided what kind of emergency, what kind of state they want, what kind of measures they want to do to prevent the coronavirus from spreading. And as we see now, the fullest measures we see in Moscow, and also people are not happy with all of the measures because they're being forced to have to stay at home. They're being forced to get an online pass to go to the nearest shop. It's a little bit crazy. So in terms of workforce, what they actually did, instead of doing the quarantine and instead of doing the state of emergency and paying for everything that is not essential, what they actually did is they shifted the payment for all of that. They shifted towards businesses and people themselves. And here I can say a few words about how the paycheck is usually built in Russia, because in Russia you don't have the full official salary. You like 95 maybe, like most of the common people. I cannot say everyone, but most of people, they're getting their salaries in two parts: in the official one, which is officially called white, and the black part, which is bonuses. So during the lockdown, the official part, like the government says that even if you're not working during the non-working week, you're supposed to be paid, and you're supposed to be paid in full. But obviously, the businesses, they cannot afford it, so they're not paying their employees. Even like they're just paying the official part, the white part, and thus the decrease in actual income in the population. Yes.
Mm-hmm. So before
there's so many parts to this, because really this is something that we see. We see the essential workers. We see the workers that are not actually essential, that they don't need to be out. They don't need to be doing stuff like merchandisers. And this, I'm going to tell a little bit more about merchandisers once we talk a little bit more about the trade union. And also we see the actually essential workers being screwed up by the government and by the employers. And it's like it seems like it's everyone. Everyone is getting screwed.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, before we go to the before we go more to about the working rights, which will be our main part of the discussion because of the new trade union that you are a member in, we have a question from our audience that they were talking about some doctors that accidentally were falling down the windows of hospitals in Moscow. And Andrian is asking if there is any truth on that. if this is happening, is terrible. I mean, it represents all the bad health system, isn't it? I mean, the frustration that the doctors were feeling. Tell us a little bit about this.
It's fully on happening. From what I remember from the top of my head, I do remember at least 2 or 3 cases like that when it's either a confirmed suicide or someone just dropped out of the window by mistake, but it doesn't seem so. And usually it's the head of hospitals or head of departments that are responsible for taking care of COVID patients. Yeah, it's horrific.
So it did happen, and it was because of the lack of, as you said, the lack of PPE, the lack of provisions that the doctors had in order to be able to help. Can I ask you on this issue again? The health system is free, I guess, for everybody. Everybody had access to the public hospitals. That was the reason? I mean, the underfunding was not representing the needs of the population.
Yeah, it's underfunding and overcrowding because there are a lot of people who are getting ill. A lot of people also. A lot of responsibility on these doctors, and they're not handling it well, unfortunately. Also, we've heard some horrific stories also about these heads of departments that by accident fell out of the window, which is insane. And a lot more. Like some of the one of the usual threats of a senior doctor to a junior doctor is, if you're not going to be obeying me, you're going to go treat the coronavirus patients. And this is an official threat without the personal protective equipment. Yeah, it's not looking good, unfortunately.
I thought that was the reason that they were led to suicide.
It seems so. It's really hard to speculate on that because those were real people and something actually happened. And we can only say that we think it's because of depression, because of lack of funding, and because when you feel like there is no way out and it's your responsibility in full. But once again, I can only speculate because we don't have official information. Also, it's really hard in Russia to get any kind of official information about suicides because they are not being openly discussed.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. During the not lockdown anyway, there was as you said, some attacks on freedom, some restrictions that you had to follow, as in most of the countries. But in Russia, that is known for not respecting any human rights or protesting rights, or thinking that democracy and secularism are liberal social attitudes coming from outside. What was the situation on these issues?
About the protests, about the human rights. It's really hard to talk in connection of Russia and human rights in general, because human rights in Russia are being chipped on every single year, and every single day we see that the situation worsens and worsens. So let's be a little bit more specific and maybe discuss some cases or...
No, during the lockdown, as you said, there were some restrictions in order to go out. But there were reports on the internet that they were saying that there was attacks on freedom. Was it focused on how many times you can go out while you are working? Or there were some protests or some kind of resistance from the people towards these measures that were taken down from the police or the state mechanism?
So it's a full spectrum, because, for example, in Moscow, we've seen videos of policemen just taking people from the streets. And for example, in the last 2, 3, 4 days, we've seen some protests, single protesters holding a sign. It's about constitution, it's about domestic violence, and so on and so on. We see how they're being treated, and we see that they're being just taken to the police stations almost immediately. If you show up, you're going to be taken to a police station. Also, there were restrictions for people over 65. Basically, the official recommendation for people over 65 is to stay at home. Do not leave your home at all. In Moscow, we've seen you need to get an official pass to leave the house, and it's very like you cannot go out at all, and you're not allowed to go for a run, for example. So it's a full spectrum of issues, starting from people who are trying to protest and trying to do something, and they're not allowed because they need a pass to leave their home. And on the other spectrum, you have 65 plus population, and they're not allowed even to go to the supermarket because they're officially said that you need to stay home because you're in a your health is at risk. You need to stay at home at any cost.
Okay, I want to go back a little bit to the provisions that the state gave to the people. As you said, because it was not declared an official state of emergency, it meant that people were not taking any money, or they lost their salaries, or they were taking part of the money of the official salary anyway that you mentioned.
So it depends. It really depends on the place that you work at. Because, for example, I have a friend working at Hermitage, and he got everything. Like, we're very happy that he's making money. At least some of the governmental structures, they give money to their employees. But, for example, with Subway in St. Petersburg, it's a governmentally owned organization. So, and they knew that what's going to happen, what's going to be with non-working days beforehand. So basically, a day before that, they rounded up all of their most of their employees, and they said to them, you need to go get a unpaid vacation. Just like sign the documents that you're getting an unpaid vacation for X amount of days. And some of them did. Some of them did. They agreed to that. And basically, the following day after that, the government announces that we have non-working but paid days. So you're not obliged to work. But if you can work, for example, from home, you are supposed to work. But for example, with these Subway workers, they were kind of forced to sign the document that they're getting the unpaid vacation, but their employment knew that what's going to happen the following day. So basically, they just screwed them over for money, because they didn't want to pay them, because they didn't want to pay the full salaries that they're supposed to.
And the railway workers, they were public sector, no?
Yeah, it is.
So we see that the austerity measures are starting already. Do they justify that in order to combat the economic crisis that is coming from COVID-19?
They're not actually discussing that. They're just like at every single some of the governmentally owned organizations, they do pay money. Some don't. Some pay just the official salary, the official part, the white part. Some of them don't. Some of them pay the full one. Like, it's you never know. It really depends on. But they're not commenting on it publicly.
Mm-hmm. Maybe they are not expecting any opposition, so they don't care anymore.
It's weird that they don't expect any kind of opposition, because they're taking, like, it's a little bit it's weird that when you take people's money away, like, this is the time when you're supposed to feel like you're going to meet the resistance. And even though and we've seen that resistance, this is what we do. Like we speak with people who are very angry, and they just we see how the employers are taking the money away from people and not letting them have a normal life. And also, like what you can call normal nowadays? Nothing is normal anymore. But they're taking their income, something that they're supposed to pay their loans, their mortgages, their rent, and the government is not doing anything for that. They're not doing the official emergency state to help their people, to help the citizens, and also small businesses to help them survive during these times. Also because nobody knows how long it's going to last. Now they're saying that they're going to lift the restrictions in like less than 2 weeks, and they're going to do it gradually. But from what we see at the moment with the numbers of sick people and death rates, it's not getting better. We don't see that we've flattened the curve. It's not looking great.
Exactly. And as I saw, there are reported already 2 million unemployed people because of the situation with the COVID-19. What is the situation with these people? Do they have any provisions, or they're left with nothing?
Uh, officially they are getting the provisions, but unofficially it's really hard to say, because for example, I know that a lot of people that we're talking with, they're not getting anything, or it's really hard for them to get that. For example, we had a case from Sochi, from the hospitality complex that they have there. And basically what they have there, they are workers that are brought from other regions of Russia. They're temporary workers, and they come there and they live there, and they sign a contract that they're moving there for the time being. So once the borders of the regions are closed and they're not allowed to leave, and then they come to work in the beginning of the pandemic, and they're being told like, you need to quit, like you need to quit right now. And as soon as they sign the document, they're being told that they cannot stay in the dorms that they're occupying, because they're occupying a dorm. And they're not supposed to be, because they're not workers, they're not employees anymore. And these people are basically left on the streets. Like they cannot go back to their home regions because the borders are closed and there is no way to get there. And they do not have any kind of money, or the money is being held back by the employer, so they cannot rent. And their place of staying, the dorms that they're staying at, they're being forced out of.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we have a similar situation in northern Cyprus as well, with exactly as you described, with hotel workers. So let's go to the resistance.
It's very weird to talk about it, because we know that hospitality industry in general, it makes a ton of money, a ton of profit. It's so much money. It's insane. They're building new like castles every other day, and they do not have the money to let their employees stay in the dorms and get their salaries for 2 months in a situation like that, when like people are dying out there. It's capitalism.
Hypocrisy of the bosses, but also from the government, that doesn't, instead of protecting these workers and making the hotel owners to pay for at least 2 months of accommodation for these people and food, I guess, because most of the people working in hotels, they eat in the hotels. Instead of the governments pushing to that direction, they finally leave the people without anything. And that's why I want to go to the resistance, because you said at that time, of course, with these attacks in the working rights, they should expect a resistance. But as we see, other than the fact that it's not a democratic system, and opposition doesn't have a say on the electoral basis, protests are illegal on the activist basis. But what about the trade unions? How is the situation? So how can these workers be represented in Russia? Is there any, and what do they do?
At the moment, trade unions that we do have, they're either not very active or they're not actually protecting workers. And this is the trend that we see right now. Maybe the conditions are a little bit better than for workers that are not parts of trade unions. So this is one of the reasons why we established the virus trade union, because we felt like it as it usually does, it started with our own comrades. And as soon as we got the news from World Health Organization that it's officially a pandemic, and people started to get uneasy, and they realized that going to the office is not the healthiest option that you can have at the moment. And if you have some conditions, and if you have some, if your immune system is not the best, that means like it can be a deadly disease for you, or you can catch some kind of a strain of a virus that can also be deadly. So even if you are a middle-aged, young or middle-aged person, it's still, it's scary. So as soon as he realized that he needs to ask his boss to work from home, and he did, and the answer was, the coronavirus is not real. What are you talking about? It's a conspiracy theory from USA. They want us to stop working and they want us to make less profit. So he had to organize at his own place and force his employer to let him work from home. And this is how it all started, with one person from Socialist Alternative. And we started, we spread the word, and we've gained a few activists here and there. And we started doing what we do. Basically, what we do is we talk loudly about the atrocious cases that we see from people. We talk loudly. We have some media support. So we have support from journalist trade union as well. So once you have a loud voice and your employer sees that it's not gonna just go unnoticed and everyone's gonna talk about it, usually employers at that stage, they do what the workers demand, or at least they do half of it, or they do the negotiation part, or they do at least something. So this is why we do what we do, because we see that there are a lot of cases with the workers' rights.
Guide us a little bit on, present it to us. How did the virus trade union got organized, and how does it work? And by the way, it's an amazing title, because as the virus is spread, the COVID-19 virus is spreading, so is the voice of the workers. I guess that's the inspiration. So tell us a little bit about it. So it started from one comrade in one workplace organizing their own. But as I understand, then it moved on the virtual space, and many people got organized and discuss about it online. How is it working?
So as soon as we realize that as soon as the pandemic starts, it's going to be really rough for the economy and for the employers. And as soon as employers understand that they're not going to get the same profits, what they want to do is they want to cut all the salaries. They want to cut all the bonuses. They don't want to provide for their employees, and it's obvious. Once you're not in a co-op or something like that, you're not going to get the normal treatment. So as soon as we notice that, we realize that it's not going to be a singled out episode. It's going to be all over the place, and a lot of people are going to have problems, especially people that are not in a good conditions right now. Everyone's going to have problems, but the most problems are going to be in retail, in service industry, in cafes and restaurants. There are going to be a lot of problems all over the place. So we realize that we need to talk about it. It's not gonna stop. It's just gonna keep on going. So we opened an online form, an online anonymous form that you can fill in and tell us what is going on. If you got some problems at your workplace, what are the problems? Are you being forced to quit? Are you being forced to get an unpaid vacation? Are you not getting enough? Are you not getting the salary that you are used to? Like what's happening? What is your problem? And drop us a message. We're gonna help you, and we're gonna help you first of all check what is the situation, like how we can help you from the point of law. Like we can tell you if your employer is not abiding the law, if he's not doing what he's supposed to. As soon as, and a lot of people do not even know that. They have no idea about their rights. They have no idea. They have no knowledge about what their actual labor rights are. No idea. So that's the first thing that we're doing. We're speaking with these people and we're telling them, like, okay, listen, your employer cannot force you to quit. Like, he cannot. As soon as you get the message, like you need to quit, you can record everything and put everything online, because this is against the law. Like, this is not supposed to happen. So and also in Russia, I'm not sure if I've seen anything like it worldwide, but basically a lot of people are being forced to quit because their employer says that you're gonna get like a stamp in your resume, like you're gonna get a permanent record that you were fired. And a lot of people are afraid of that because they truly believe that it's something bad. They truly believe that if they're being cut, it's their fault. And basically, even if they know that once they're being fired, they have all the payments that they're supposed to get. They're supposed to get all the payments that they need in order to survive at least 2 months. But they have no idea how to get that. They have no idea how to argue for that with their employer. So, and a lot of employers are taking advantage of that people that have no idea about their rights. So, okay. So I got distracted a little bit about the rights. Let's get back to the union. So basically, we have an online form that you can fill in, and you can drop us a message. And it's either we're going to help you personally, so we can tell you what is the situation. We can consult a person about their legal rights and what they can actually do, if they can record everything and put it out online if something is happening, or if they want to, they can make a claim to the Ministry of Labor to say that there's been that the employer is not abiding the law and something has to be done about it. Or, for example, and this is something that happened, and this is the most progress that we've seen on places, is when we see that there are a few workers from the same company or from the same, like, for example, merchandisers, they are employed in different companies, but they do the same work. So you can organize them as one unity. So as soon as we see that people come with the same problems, we can actually connect them. And as soon as there are more people, as soon as you find the second person at your workplace to join you in your claims for the rights, the better. Like, it increases your chance of getting what you actually need, getting paid, not being fired, not being threatened, not being forced to quit. It increases your chances in success by at least 50%. And as soon as you get a lot of people doing that, and as soon as you can actually write a collective letter, or make an official claim, or go to your employer and officially state your demands, the more people, the better. And I think this is the best thing that we can do as the various trade union. We connect people to fight for their rights together.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I was about to ask you whether you find the people and you organize them, and do you propose to them to build their own trade union, or do you propose to them to join a trade union? And what was the reaction of the trade unions in the workplace?
In general, we did not get any kind of proper reactions from the existing trade unions. They never offered to help us or something. I think only one. And what they actually wanted to is they wanted to have the database of our requests to speak with the people themselves and to offer them something. Like they just wanted the data that we have. But in general, we did not get any kind of support or resistance from the existing trade unions. And from what I understand, there are not that many, like the people that reach to us, they never were in a trade union. They have no idea what that is or how they work. Or if they had some experience, I think like one or two people that got in touch with us, they were in a trade union and they did not like it because the existing trade unions that we have right now in Russia, they're not active. They're not actually protecting the rights of the workers. They sold out a long time ago.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So you started with demands about COVID-19, like I guess protective equipment or days off, as you said, paid leave, etc. What was the small victories? Did you manage to get these victories in some workplaces?
Yep, absolutely. We have a few. Let's start with the easiest one. I think in the beginning of the pandemic, in the beginning of the non-working days, we got a message from Wildberries, and they said, like, should I say something about Wildberries and what that is in
Yes,
Russia?
we have no
Okay.
idea what it is.
So Wildberries is it's an online retail store. Mostly they sell clothing, but recently they added all of the essential groceries and so on and so on. Groceries, soaps, antiseptic, and furthermore. So we got a message that the employees were forced to work more. So they were told that the official working day would increase from, I think before that they started from 9 o'clock in the morning and they closed at like 8. And everyone just got a message in the evening about like 10 o'clock in the evening that the following day they're supposed to be at their working places earlier and leave later. And they were supposed to close the store. It's not a store. It's like you can get your delivery there. So basically, and we wrote about it. Like we got the message and we wrote about it, and we got the news from inside Wildberries. So Wildberries is like Amazon. Let's do the connection. It's like Amazon in Russia, but with clothing. And a little bit with the essential stuff. So as we
comparing wealth as well is like Amazon, isn't it?
Yeah, of course. And also the owner of Wildberries, her name is Bakalchuk, Tatiana Bakalchuk. She is the wealthiest woman in Russia. So we know for sure that they have the money. We know for sure that the company is not doing badly. It's not losing any kind of profits. Also, they were doing marketing campaigns online to order more online. And I think she had a video message for everyone in Russia saying, and all of the retail workers, all of the retail stores, clothing stores, to come join them in at their marketplace underneath them and pay them money as well. So they're doing well. They have the money. Everything's fine. Also, Tatiana Bakalchuk, she also has all the money in the world. She's the wealthiest woman in Russia. She's fine. And then we start getting the messages from Wildberries about all of the stuff that is happening there, and it's getting scary because they are just exploiting their workers. They are fining them for stuff, which is illegal in Russia. Like, by the law, you cannot fine a person unless you write it down in the contract. In the contract, if you're being fined, you're supposed to have all of the fines explained to you, how they build up, what are you being fined for, how, and you cannot decrease the salary a lot. And in Wildberries, what they do, they just manipulate all the numbers. They can fine you whatever, any time of month. They can fine you and not explain it to you. Also, the official documents about the salary, I'm not sure how they're called in English. I know how they're called in Hebrew and in Russian. So the official document that you are being given after the fact of getting the salary, with all the descriptions, what the salary consists of, they were not getting those at all. Like, they were just getting the money without the explanation what that amount of money consists of, and they were being fined, and they're still fined. These people are still being fined a lot, and they still have no idea how they're being fined, or why they're being fined, or for what they're being fined. So let's get back to the case and
Yes,
what has happened there.
Uh-huh.
So this is Wildberries. It's not the best place to work at. Let's put it mildly. Also, a few days ago, not a few days ago, I think like a week ago, we got a message that there were like two employees that died in a, what do we call it? Not the store, the warehouses. Two employees died in warehouses of coronavirus. Just died. So they our small wins. And as soon, like, we got the message that they're being forced to overwork, and also they're not being overpaid. Like, they're getting the same salary even if they're doing more working hours. Nobody's striking the hours. It's insane. So we got the message that this is happening, and I think it was one of the first posts that we did on the virus trade union. And we got a feedback from the insider in Wildberries saying that their management noticed this, and they rolled it back like in a day or two. So we knew for sure that as soon as we started talking loudly about those cases, it's going to happen. Then also the same with Wildberries. We started getting messages that they're not being, they don't have enough personal protection equipment. They're not being supplied for a full day or for a full week. They're just being given like one mask a day or one mask per week, and go like, you do you, people, you do you. We're not sure what's gonna happen to you. And we got the message about that, and we started posting about it a lot. And we got a lot of messages from different employees from Wildberries, also from warehouses, from stores, from call centers. We got all these messages, and we started talking about it. And in like a few days, we got the message that they started providing everyone. They started giving the normal equipment to employees. That's a win. That's definitely a win.
Of course. So in reality, you use the media, the social media, in spreading the message, and in that way pushing the employer to provide, isn't it?
Yeah, and that happened, a lot. That happened with Wildberries, and also one of the retail workers. I think it was something about the. I think it was a retail for tech and cell phones and cell phone covers, that stuff. So we also got a message that they are working unofficially, and they're not being provided with the personal protection equipment, not masks, not gloves, not antiseptics, like nothing. And we posted about it, and we spread the word, and we've seen the reach. And we got the message from the same employees that they closed the stores, and the employees were not forced to be in a closed store anymore, which was also like a huge win.
Yes, definitely. So how many members does the Virus Trade Union have now?
I think we shift a lot in membership, because a lot of people they're coming. If they have some free time, they come. They do what they can. If that's writing text, or if that's speaking with the context, and working with the requests that we still receive. But overall, we're not that many. We are like from 10 to 20 people, and also we shift in the amount of people, and also a lot of our own, I cannot say clients, but our own contacts that we worked with. We've had a few, obviously. Overall, starting from the end of March, we got more than 300 requests, and we've spoken with all of these people. And some of them we organized, some of them we did open letters. We did open letters from merchandisers. Lots and lots of texts about specific local problems at a workplace. Lots of stuff about Wildberries, and lots of different wins, major or minor. So a lot of people that we worked with, and the people that actually that seen that we care, that we're there for them, and we're there because we actually want to help every single worker, because we know how to move forward. We know that the only possible way for us, for workers, to get any kind of rights, specifically in this country, is to unite. There is no other way around it. Like, you have your fellow colleague, just grab him and go do something. You want your demands to be fulfilled. Do something. And this is what we do. We come there and we speak with these people, and we help them organize at places. If we cannot help them organize, if we understand that there are not that many employees, if we understand that they're too afraid to speak out, if we realize that they don't want to, that they're going to be forced to quit, or they're going to be fired if they're going to be seen in any kind of resistance activities. If that happens, we're trying to help them individually. But our main goal is to actually help people organize at places by themselves, and to find the strengths and the voice of themselves, and to make demands. Because our general demands as the Virus Trade Union is to better your working place. But it depends on your working place. So the actual demands you are doing by yourself. And this is what you need to do with our help, and with our knowledge, and with our motivation, and we can help you help yourself. And this is what we do.
So what are the future plans of the Virus Trade Union? Are you planning to organize locally on specific workplaces? How is the thought? I mean, what are you thinking about moving forward?
So at the moment, we have a few wins with the merchandisers. They did an open letter, and with a few companies, they got their demands met, which is amazing, outstanding, and we are very happy for them. They got the payments. So we're not going to stop, obviously. We're going to move it forward. And I am 100% sure that we're going to get more requests for help after the coronavirus, after the pandemic ends. So we're not going anywhere. We're still here, and we do want to branch out. We have at least one of the people that we helped in the beginning, and we got his voice increased by a lot by our help. So he wants to organize now a branch in another city, and this is what we want to do. We want to branch out. We want to have more places. We want to have more people, and we want to do that to help people organize at places, and to see how they can fight for their rights.
Perfect, excellent. So our time is running out. I wanted to ask you much more questions about the youth movements that we saw the last few years. There was a very militant mood, and even though the restrictions, there were people coming out on the streets protesting, and with very imaginative ways. Like I don't know if you would like to say a little bit about it. We saw online protests that were instant, like gathering, opening the banners. I mean, many ways that young people were managing to get over the restrictions of the state, of the regime, and to protest because they have to, because their rights are being stolen. Would you like to say some things about it? Just in this 1 minute that we have.
In this 1 minute that we have, I do feel that youth is not happy. We're not happy. We want to have our rights. We want to have our rights to be. We want to have our rights to protest. We want to have our voices. And this is what we do, how we can do this. Some people are brave enough to just go out with a sign and stand in front of a police station and go like, people, you're crazy. But some people are not doing that, and some people are still afraid of the coronavirus, and it's totally understandable. We don't want to ask anyone to go out and endanger themselves if they don't need to, if they're not ready to take that risk. So what we did, for example, with the socialist feminist alternative that I'm a part of, we did an online meeting that also was covered, and that also was covered by the media, and we got attention. So for anyone who's looking, who wants to organize an online protest, you just get a GPS navigator and you put comments. You put comments with your demands, and you need to localize it somewhere, and you need to have a lot of a lot of people doing the comments, or like traffic alert or something like that. So it's going to be visible for anyone who's using the navigator. Yeah, that's a little pro tip about the online meeting organizing. Good luck.
Yes, it's a very inspiring way of protesting now that we are in lockdown, and I hope that, and I see that from what you say, that after the lockdown is over, the mood to the youth and the protesters will be the same, and hopefully we will be back in all countries on the streets fighting for our rights. Thank you very much, Daria, for your time, for your information that you gave us here. It was very inspiring, and I hope that also here in Cyprus we learned a lot about how we can start getting organized, especially young workers that we see no future and no representation from all the formations that exist, or we live in, we work in places that we don't have actually any representation. Thank you very much, Daria, and I wish you good luck to all the next steps of the future of the virus, trade union, and everything.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks all of you that you were watching and you were with us until the end today. Please send and thank you for the comments. Actually, today we had a lot of comments and a lot of questions. I hope we covered all of them. Thank you all for watching, and please comment even when we are offline, and maybe we can catch up some of the questions in our next episodes. Also, go to our website, nedacywordpress.com, or the International Socialist Alternative, International Socialist Net, to get more information about the ideas and the movements that we're covering. And of course, follow and listen to Radio Ubuntu on radioubuntu.com. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and tune in for next week for our next show. Thank you.
Secar, molla kısa dök bir çay. Fabrika parça başı, yettirdin mi maaşı? Ev içi görülmez emek, sigorta yok, yol ve yemek. Nevli ferah zamanlar, burada herkes bırakar. Burada herkes bırakar. Yektü secar, ne yerim ne yenim dar. Ev kira sokak bizim, değil benim krizim. İşsizdir tüm çalışanlar, mavi beyaz ne farkın var? Akibinse yasalar, yıkılsın piyasalar, yıkılsın piyasalar, yıkılsın piyasalar. Yıkılsın piyasalar.